This video you're about to watch may change the way you play SuperCard, at least in the short term, maybe the long term, completely. Because for the last couple of rarities, I have been using one specific tactic to build up my arsenal of top rarity cards, and it is not Team Stomping Grounds. Because yes, that helps, but it doesn't get you anywhere near the guaranteed level of success as what I'm about to show you now. Some of you may have noticed a difference since the end of last season, that my way of forging cards has changed somewhat. Yes, I do go for the best cards in the rarity. Yes, I do go for certain specific stats that are going to help me in campaign mode, but I also go after a couple of cards that have a very specific use that will be incredibly helpful in one mode. Boom. Going into this little section, we'll show you different cards that have different bonuses. For example, a small boost to your points would be for Jey Uso and Thea Hale, whereas Jimmy Uso and Chelsea Green get slightly more, or for the big ones, it's Joe Hendry and AJ Lee. Whereas if you want to cause some big damage, you want someone like Finn Balor, Stephanie Vaquer, Gunther, and Raquel Rodriguez. But from rarity to rarity, these change, sometimes quite drastically, other times actually quite close to the cards you might have already. And there are certain things that people are doing totally the wrong way around that are costing them the ability to use this method to pile top rarity cards up like you're playing the hammer and bell game at a fair. You guys know which one I'm talking about, where you keep hitting with the hammer over and over and over again. Think of this as like an infinite hammer. You could just keep hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting, and no matter how much you do, that stack of cards is going up, and that bell is ringing until the end of time. The only thing that stops you is whether you've got the cards, or alternatively, how much credits you're willing to put into it. I'm not going to say money, because it's not necessarily money, it is credits. And credits can be earned, and the ways in which you use them may be the difference between you having a good rarity with ease and not having to spend as many credits or super coins or spend as much time, and a relatively bad one where you're having to constantly grind events. But let's get to the start. The first mistake a lot of people make is they start clearing out their back catalog of cards the moment a new rarity is announced, and you need to stop right there, because that's the worst thing you can do. Nowadays, you need to wait until the boom abilities have been announced. Once you know this, feel free to start clearing your stock. Alternatively, put the more powerful ones into your binder in case that changes in the near future. The next thing you need to be doing is, well, hitting the thumbs up button, because that is completely free of charge. And it only takes you 2 seconds to do. So what are you waiting for? I know you've done it. Hey, and you over there? Hey, but I mean, have you? Are you inviting El Lyco to come to your house and sit down and have a cup of tea with you and stare you right in the face and go, why no likey? Well, if you haven't, now's the time to do it. And whilst you're there, if you've already liked the video, why not hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing? We've got a lot of good content coming up with the road to WrestleMania and 2K26 all on the horizon. And in the comments down below, I'd just like to know what you think is going to be the WrestleMania main event on night 2. Night 1 is sorted with Roman versus Punk. Do you think we're going to see Drew, Cody and Jacob, or maybe Drew, Cody, Jacob and LA Knight? Just throwing that spanner in the works. Let me know your predictions in the comments down below. So one thing you're going to have to do with this is play a lot of campaign to get yourself the blue tokens. Those are things you can use to forge and then just have enough super coins to be able to get the cards you need. When a rarity starts or you reach the top rarity, the first thing you want to be doing is going and grabbing one of these best cards. For this rarity, it is Joe Hendry, but also the likes of Dragon Lee, Jimmy and Jey Uso, Penta, or maybe on the ladies side, you want to go for someone like AJ Lee, Julia, Maxine Dupree, or whoever the best cards at that point are. Destructive cards do help, but I wouldn't say you need to forge these. Just try to look out for them when they appear in either events, or look for them in your undercards from previous rarities, because they're still powerful enough if they're in a rarity or 2 rarities below to strike other cards and hit them hard. Then you want to be looking at having a deck like this. So this is not necessarily one you need to be going for 100%, but it is one which is as perfect as I can get it. This is not going to get you the most amount of points, but it's going to get you enough to make this trick work. And whilst initially your deck will have small holes in it where you maybe have to use cards that don't really benefit you, eventually you'll start ending up with decks like this one where you've just gained so many new cards that you're starting to fit it out with the best ones available. You want to fill the most important parts of your boom deck, such as the big square, the cross, the T-shaped Tetris piece, and the corner pieces. With the cross piece at the top, you can use this either for a negative or for positive, but I wouldn't waste this on a really good card. You want to be placing those in the positions I've just mentioned. All of your negative cards, or as I call them, big bomb cards, you want to put in these positions. The one that needs to cause the most damage, or as I call it, the nuker, needs to go in the square with the front 3. This one here occupied by Finn Balor, and he's the big boomer in this rarity. Not that kind of boomer. Now, I tend to also go for the backward option, but you want to make sure this one is good, but isn't for all. The reason I have this one for all is because it creates more damage. The boost and the destruction cards that are for player usually don't reach the same heights as the ones that are for all cards. So for Bron Breakker, he has a big destruction rate, but only for enemies, which means it won't hurt your cards. You then want something really powerful, such as this Gunter in the sideways spot, and your 2 diagonals should be negative cards as well. For these, however, I would try to prioritize your cards that have got big stats. If you're struggling to find the cards that do the deed for you, remember to go into filters and press either positive or negative. If I'm looking for a negative card that has the highest level of stats, and maybe I'll find a Bronson Reed who has the highest one, but if Solo Sikoa is my best one and he does enough damage, then you know what? We'll choose Solo Sikoa. The only reason AJ Styles is there is because AJ Styles is the highest level card. The same reason I've got Joe Gacy here and not Solo Sikoa. The up and down is take it or leave it too, but the same rules to that apply with the downward slot from Bron Breakker. Is that you want to make sure this is not to all, that is just to the player, especially if it's a destructive card. Hopefully this all makes sense, but this deck setup, regardless of how many points you've got, is a sure winner. Regardless of how good your cards are, the priority needs to be your biggest point getters go in the biggest point slots. So the big square, the cross, and the easy to obtain points sections, which are these T-cross Tetris pieces I mentioned earlier. Then I'm going to buy myself a bunch of quadruplers and you'll see what happens next. Now, SuperCard used Joe Hendry as a special card in both the previous rarity, which was static, and in adventure, and I've been doing this recently with plenty of other cards. For example, having CM Punk in 2 batches of boom ability boosts. Bron Breakker regularly features. Cody Rhodes can sometimes be found on either the destructive side or the positive side quite regularly, and you'll find that even cards that are like at the very bottom of your list, so it could be 3 or 4 tiers down, actually are super useful for spots like the Joe Hendry is in right now. Not only do these help get you points, by the way, they also help you get the special cards such as this Finn Balor, which once you have it, usually is the most destructive card that is available in your deck. The next thing you want to be doing is applying your best, and I mean best, equipment to the cards. Now, for example, with Joe Hendry, he has a extra bonus of his cards getting a specific boost from his special equipments available in Adventure Rarity. But the same goes for anyone who has special cards like the Kurt Angle, the Logan Paul drone, if John Cena, for example. Use those to your advantage because they give a massive bonus. Your best equipments need to go on the cards that give you the most points. So if all the Joe Hendrys that I've been able to get or get out of my binder, all of these cards are on Joe Hendrys or Mr. Iguana for some reason. Why is that on Mr. Iguana anyway? And once you've done that for all of your boom cards to give the biggest stat boost you can, you'll notice that the numbers on your cards for your points, and these are the ones given when you just put the card on the board would have increased. Once you've done this, you want to go to the momentum slot and put on your best point scoring cards. So mine are Joe Hendry and Dragon Lee. Now, if you're struggling for a little bit of power, for example, you can also do this with your big destructive cards. I'll give you an example. With Finn Balor, he has a current destructive rate of a massive 15,762. He doesn't need a boost, but just to show you guys the kind of boost you're looking at, I'll add Finn Balor to that boost and then go across to my boom deck. He now does 16,488 and has an overall points total of 5,496. Two big increases that you'll be surprised at just how much that does. You'll also notice that the Joe Hendry has gone down to 5,363 and only 8,000 points boosted, compared to an exactly the same card on the right hand side with 300 almost more power and 400 points per card, by the way, per card more boost. That's 1,200 if you put it in the right spot on the board. You're about to see some crazy numbers here, and this is why boom is so important. Now, for this, you really don't want to be going up to the higher levels. For example, once you get past 5 wins, 6 wins, this becomes harder and harder to pull off, unless your deck is absolutely insane or you get very lucky. At this point, the computer becomes a lot more aggressive and starts pushing you much earlier on, making it harder to get the big point scores. Adding the doublers or quadruplers, whilst you might think, oh, that's a lot of credits, is where it's going to take your game to the next level. In between the Finn Balor at the end, and this has been the same for the last couple of rarities, is an infinite pack which you can keep hitting over and over and over again. As long as you claim it, you can then restart and get another pack. And another one. This requires a point total of 1.1 million. In the past, it's been 800,000, 600,000, and no doubt it'll increase over time. And you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of points. Well, you're about to see why it can sometimes not be much at all. The first game, you want to ideally create as much space as possible so we can lose a card like the cross card, because it gives us a big amount of space and gives us options to use. So now we can use our Dragon Lee to boost the bottom card, but we're not really fussed if it does too much. These are more utility cards to give us more space on the board, but if we've got a full board and we're in control, might just give us a couple of extra 1,000 points here and there. Now, at this point, you can choose two routes. You can go aggressive and put in, let's say, AJ Styles and hope he doesn't push forward on the other side, or sit back and just boost your points up, which is what I'm going to do. And you see they become a little bit more aggressive. Now, what you don't want to be using is too many of your negative cards or your destructive cards. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put AJ Styles there just to tease what they're trying to do, because the cards I've got at the moment aren't going to help me. And I don't want to use that space in the middle. Now, in this situation, when I've taken more spaces on the right and left, you could go for this tactic and just drop the big one in the middle. Or you could drop Gunter in, but it depends on what your aim is. Are you aiming for the biggest amount of points or take as many spaces as you can? In this situation, I'm going to drop Gunter in here and see what that does. He is not pushed forward, which is good. We can now put Joe Hendry in here. That gives these two cards a big boost, takes the last spot, and immediately we get I Surrender. Not every game is going to go your way though, so just bear that in mind before you start playing and getting frustrated as to why you're not getting perfect matches. Sometimes you will end up with 1 or 2 cards on the board, and that's okay. Now, I've got a decision here to make. Do I go ahead and place Finn Balor here to take out these cards, or do I do it down here? But I now know that no matter what I do, I am not going to be able to clear this board. So I'm going to go for Finn Balor to take out the 2 cards at the top. Now we're starting to get a lot more space here, and I'm going to put in my plus sign Joe Hendry to get the maximum amount of points here. And you're seeing our point total is going up very, very quickly. Now, I was going to place this here, but I'm now not going to do that because the corner piece has become available. It's always worth taking a screenshot of your deck for reference purposes. The game won't continue like a PvP game, so you have time to make decisions. I know that the last piece I've got is a Joe Hendry that is not going to help in this situation. Plus, I've still got an enemy card on the board. So I'm going to put Joe Gacy up here to create the space to put this card in. And I'm then going to put in this Dragon Lee to give myself a few extra points. And now comes the big one. We've got this big 8-piece, which is going to go up at the top. And we have 175,000 points at the moment. This is going to take it to 239,000. If you're good at math, times that by 4. The points are climbing 958,000. Now, not all your scores are going to be that good, but even with a lesser deck, you're still going to be scoring 800,000 by plays like that. So if we now go to the rewards, you'll now notice that that 1.1 million gap has been reduced to 200,000. You're thinking to yourself, why is that so important? Well, in this pack is the ability to get one guaranteed Royal Rumble card or top rarity card, and the chance at 2 more top rarity cards, plus 250 super coins, plus a rarity draft pick. There is a chance to get 4 Royal Rumble cards effectively from this pack. And if you're doing what I've just done time and time again, you're going to keep getting pack after pack after pack, and you suddenly end up with 5, 6, 7 Royal Rumble cards in a single playthrough, a single sitting. Grinding boom in the early stages of a rarity, or when you join a rarity, can be one of the most important things you can do. Not only does it get you that Finn Balor card, like I said earlier, but you're just getting more and more top cards for very little spend compared to buying packs in the store, and sometimes costing you next to nothing in other resources. Maybe a couple of blue tokens, maybe some super coins, but nowhere near what you need to get cards like, I don't know, this Jimmy Uso that cost a lot of backstage tokens, this Batista, Eric from the backstage store, the Christmas Jimmy and Jey Uso, more top rarity cards you'd have to get in packs. Even if you don't perfect this strategy, this is going to be throwing cards at you like money. It's just going to be one card after another card after another card. The next game really doesn't matter if I get a huge total. I just need to get 200 or 1,000. So for a person who casually spends on this game, or has got some credits and wants to spend them, you'll be able to do this maybe 2-3 times a day if you get the right games. If you want to spend a bit more, you can do this, and not recommended, so bear this in mind. Let's just say in this situation, I'm going to put these cards down, but the computer's going to be way more aggressive this time, and they're going to shut us down early. I'm thinking to myself, oh god, I've got the worst deck of cards possible, and I'm not going to be able to do this. Well, you can just press retreat back. You're going to lose your streak, but that's not what's important. You've now gone back to an easier level. Rinse and repeat. You do lose doublers on quadruplers, and you will have to pay for bouts again. But if you're on your first bout and you've had a really bad case of RNG picking the cards for you, then it really isn't going to matter. It's the difference between potentially getting hundreds of thousands of points and getting maybe 40, 50,000. I'm in a much lower difficulty setting, which means I've got a lot more promise of potentially getting myself better rewards. We've got our win, we've used our 4 times multiplier, and 896. We go to the rewards, we open the pack, and let's see what we get. We get... What did I just say? The chance for 4 potentially Royal Rumble cards or top rarity cards, and I get Dragon Lee, who, again, I got most of my Joe Hendrys from this by doing this method, which gave me the big power boost I have. Dragon Lee's the second best card, so he will be useful. The next one coming up, Roman Reigns, one of the best cards in the rarity, and I've got him now as a pro. Then next one, Eric Rowan, a brand new card for me, and a rarity draft pick. So we're going to lock all these guys in. And some of you will find yourselves in this situation, using this trick, getting 5, 10, 15 top rarity cards, whether it's Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, in a single session. This situation, I just want to finish off with the most points possible, so I'm going to slap in Dragon Lee, and then yep, that was the best thing I could do, because I can then put Joe Hendry in, and even if though it's giving them points, that's still going to get me a pretty respectable and very good 700,000 plus. And again, we go back to the point total needed. I now only need another 400,000 points to get another milestone pack. Let's do this again. I'm going to put AJ Styles to give us a little bit of space, an opening on the right hand side. He's going to go aggressive from the get-go, so this is one you got to be very careful of. I'm going to put Dragon Lee on at the left to push out to the right a bit. Now he's being a little bit more cautious because the CPU's seen that I'm happy to go aggressive as well. Now we have an interesting situation because I may have to use the plus sign for Joe Hendry, because if I use Penta, which is just the up and down, and he uses someone in reply, I could find myself trapped. So in this situation, I don't want to use it, but I have no choice. I need to give myself a little bit of space. And whilst the CPU wasn't aggressive, there's every chance they would have been if I'd have pushed forward too far. Because now I can pop in this Joe Hendry here. He's going to try and grab another bit of power. I'm going to go, nah, see you later. I've now got all of the spots I want, and now you're going to see the magic happen. The big nuker, the demon, takes out the guys at the top. We throw in Gunter to take the guys at the side. We use Bron Breaker to take the guys below, and before you know it, we now suddenly have a chance at actually getting a really big score. I'm going to place Jimmy Uso here to get these points. It's not ideal, it's not conventional what I'm about to do, because I have placed the X of Jimmy Uso there instead of putting Joe Hendry there. We put Dragon Lee over here, and then we're going to use Joe Hendry to fill up the spaces in between. That will give us over 200,000. Put the last one into the piece like it's Tetris, and boom, 234,312. That is over 920,000 points, and if you've got the credits or you're willing to spend it, you can just keep going up and going down and going up and going down by backing out of matches and restarting again and again. You will waste multipliers, but you will find yourself getting even better rewards than the ones that are at the top of Boom. Let's get our next milestone pack. This one, again, could include one, it could include two or three. We're gonna get Joe Hendry. Perfect, one of my best point getters. This guy is like the cream of the crop of Boom cards in this rarity. I didn't get more than one, but I got exactly what I wanted. Stronger cards for my Boom deck. I didn't have the best deck at the start, but I did build myself up by doing this again and again and again. This method is nuts. So I hope it has gone on to help you. Some know about it already. Others may not know how simple it can be or the methods that I use, and I'm not an expert at Boom. I know what I'm doing, but there's other guys who are at the top of the leaderboard who have much more refined strategies, and they're getting one of those milestone rewards every other game. And if it did go on to help you and you're still here at this point because it's been a long video, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course let me know in the comment section down below your WrestleMania prediction for night 2 is the one that's going to feature the Drew McIntyre match. And if you want to see more recent content, go to the most recent video just down here, or go to this video up here to see the best video apparently YouTube thinks you'd like to watch, or hit my face to subscribe. I'll see you guys real soon. Later.